Good morning, Marlow. It's Friday the 26th of June. Can you feel it? Can you feel the heat? I certainly can in the studio. It's very, very warm. You're listening to Jill Hickey here on Good Morning Marlow, Marlow FM 97.5. I've got a fantastic show lined up this morning. Some great music, sticking with the sunny theme. I've got all sorts of things coming up. But first of all, very excited. If the technology works, which we've tested and we think it will, on Zoom, I am talking to Pradeep, Shahi and Stuart Walker. Pradeep is the writer-director of Gurkha Behind the Bravery, which is the first ever feature film about Gurkhas inspired by true events and starring Stuart Walker. So, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
You're there. Yes, it's all working. You're nice and loud. Good. So, it's very exciting. Your first ever feature film. So, Pradeep, tell us. Well, let's go right back to the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and how you got into filmmaking, and that will kind of lead us to where you are today.
Obviously, I was born in Nepal, but I was born in a Gurkha family. So as a kid, I think I moved around a lot, as army kids normally seem to do, making new friends every new year. Mm-hmm. I think my actually film background didn't start from childhood. I loved film from childhood. I watching film. In fact, my very first film I watched is called The Third Man from 1947. It was a black and white film, and I watched it when I didn't even learn the language. And that film is special to me. And I have not rewatched it because I don't want to lose the magic of it. But ever since then, I knew, I love filmmaking. It's something that compels you to find new world, almost like new experience that which you can never find in the little world.
Yeah.
But obviously, being born in a Gurkha family, I think education is very highly in our community. So I was supposed to be, getting the path to become a doctor. Mm-hmm. That's what my father's ambition was. And from the very childhood, I was groomed to be you must be a doctor. That was the logic behind it. But when I grew older and when I went to uni, this is where I came to UK. And I kind of decided to, take my own initiative. And I actually changed my course to film directing without telling my parents.
Oh, okay. Which uni did you go to for that course?
The University of Winchester.
Okay.
And I had my lecturer, although he was Emmy award-winning director called John Pett. Luckily for him, I actually met him. And he was very, in a subtle way, pushed me to, be brave and take this decision. So I got a lot of credit to give it to him, because without him, I probably wouldn't have chose filmmaking. I would probably have done something else because I was too afraid to let my parents down. But obviously, with his help, hey, I'm here filming, and now I'm actually directing my first feature film.
So did you go straight from university into directing, or did you go get some, jobs doing other things?
I think I started my career from uni. In uni when you have this group where most of the people didn't do any work and you have to do lots of work. Yeah. That's where I realized, I actually have a passion for it. And for 3 years, I think, by the time I finished uni, I actually was good enough to lead a small project. So once I finished my short films from my uni, I actually went out and doing some more experience. And eventually, I did a lot of freelance videos before. That's the best way to pursue a career of freelance filmmaking, especially short films. And won some tiny small awards that nobody really knows much. Okay. And eventually I did manage to work as assistant director in Hollyoaks as well. And then I left and I moved to London to make another feature film. But obviously when I came here, I come across this topic, Gurkha. And then, my life changed.
So tell us about that. So the film is about Sergeant Kulbir Thapa, who was the first Gurkha to be awarded the prestigious Victoria Cross. What's your connection to obviously you come from the Gurkha family. What's your connection to him?
So there is no direct, a family lineage between us. But the term Gurkha, we hold very dearly back in Nepal. So, and as a special son of a Gurkha, you have heard of this legend, Kulbir Thapa, millions of times before. But not once I ever thought, come across in my mind, I will be making a film of this person. Because, I didn't ever realize how shielded my life was from hardship, because our parents have worked so hard so we can have a better future. And it's only when I came to London, especially where I currently live in Belvedere, and I had a job in a village. And there's a little square, and whether it's raining, whether it's sunshine, you see this like group of old Gurkha veterans and their wives just sitting there. And they're there because they have nowhere else to go. You know, they live in a very, I would say, not very comfortable accommodation, and they don't really understand the language very well, but they're too old enough to like, you know, try to learn new languages. But they're still there because they have nowhere else to go. And then I find it, not many people necessarily recognize them. And there's some people actually taunting them, some people seeing them in a very negative way, you know, they're just here for social services. But then when I talk to the same people, they often tell me that they love army, they love armed forces, they love Gurkhas. Then I realized there is this lack of education or lack of faith where the British public hasn't really know what Gurkha, how the Gurkhas look like. They have heard of it, you know, they have heard all the hardship done by Gurkhas, but they actually do not know how the Gurkhas look like. Hence, you know, I came with this story, like, you know, I should make a film about a Gurkha. So a British public can actually see how a Gurkha looks like it. So in return, in future, if they walk past that village square and if they see old Gurkha veterans, at least they will say hello. And, you know, I want to restore their dignity. And that's the part of, you know, what I want from this project, being honest.
So let's enlighten any listeners that don't really understand what the Gurkhas did. Can you tell us, you know, what obviously they're very special people, but what makes them so special? What did they do? What's their...
I think many people don't often realize this. You know, there was in 1857, there was this thing called Indian Mutiny, right? That's where, like, perhaps the British Empire would have collapsed had it not been the Gurkhas, you know, defending them. Because India had a massive revolution back then and the empire wasn't close to fall. And this is where I think the Gurkhas stepped in and they actually, you know, like, this is where we took the side of the British. And this is where we actually, you know, hold the empire back then. And as a result, I think that's ever since, because we've been allied since 1817 when the war was finished between Nepal and Britain, East India Company back then. But in 1857, the Indian Mutiny was the place where I think we became the special friend because, you know, in the time of the needs, we stepped in. And ever since, you know, like every single war that British Empire or like, you know, the British as a country has been involved, that World War I, World War II, you know, Iraq, Malay War, Borneo conflict, every conflict you name it, the Gurkhas are always there. And out of all the conflict, it's not, you know, we choose to go to conflict. I think we are quite like tough people. The Gurkhas are quite tough, but they're also the softest people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think this is the reason why we are able to like mingle in the British forces so much, because when there's time of like need, when time of action, we are the first one to go on. But when there's time of having fun and, you know, like trying to get on with the society, have this like, you know, good vibe to be around, we are the first one as well. I think that's the reason why we have Gurkhas have a special place in the British community, I think.
Yeah. So talking about how tough they are, one of the things that I want to talk to you about, you did some amazing fundraising for this film because obviously it was completely funded by crowdfunding and people working on a voluntary basis. And what is so special about this film is that any profits that you're going to make from the movie, tell us where they're going.
So all the cast and crew here, you know, without them, the project wouldn't have been this far. And they all work on a voluntary basis. You know, they didn't take a single penny out of this project. All the money goes to our expenses, our, you know, like set, uniforms, everything that you need to make film. And as a result, all the profit that comes from this film goes to Gurkha Welfare Trust. And the reason why we are doing so is because for the last 50, 60 years, you know, Gurkha Welfare Trust, again, selflessly, have been helping Gurkha veterans ever since the World War I, World War II. And for us, as a younger generation of Gurkhas, you know, sons and daughters of Gurkhas, I thought it was only the right thing. Like, you know, the charity that has done so much for our forefathers, that we should help them more so they can look after more of our Gurkha veterans.
So one of the things that you did to raise funds for the film was some amazing challenge. You went to Scafell Pike. And is that, because I watched the YouTube video about that, was that something that the Gurkhas had to do to pass some kind of training to be able to go to war?
So even, I think our British public are not very aware like how intensive the competition is back home in Nepal to be a Gurkha. So every year, almost like 20,000 Gurkhas compete for this like 200 position, right?
Wow.
200 vacancies pretty much. And one of the, I think this is perhaps the most like, every routine is tough, but this is the one of the like the most fancy one, but the most, at the same time, the most like we are fascinated about. It's called Doko race, okay? And it's very simple. Like you carry, so it sounds simple when I say.
I was going to say, it didn't look simple.
you carry 35 kilograms of your weight, and you have this like traditional like bag, a basket, I'll call it, and you have to use your head and your neck to support to carry it.
Okay.
And then you're supposed to climb like 5 kilometers uphill and come down. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to do that within like 45 minutes.
So 35 kilograms of weight that you're carrying, and you've got to go up 5K and back down again in 45 minutes.
Yes.
I mean...
And when I said the people train so much, like for me, like it took us like 90 minutes, and we only trained a few weeks maximum. But these people, like they are so stubborn, so tough. They run from the very beginning till the very end. Imagine like carrying 35 kilograms running uphill. Like I my whole the challenge with when we climb the scaffold pike. I think after first kilometer, I'm not lying to you, I walked the whole rest of the time. Yeah. Because running does not exist.
It did look very tough. And also you hit some horrible weather, didn't you? You kind of hit a storm when you got to the top, and it was snowing and all sorts, wasn't it?
I think like, we actually planned to go first thing in the morning. I even had running shoes on thinking it's going to be good weather. And then halfway through, we realized there's like a little snowstorm coming. And obviously, we are like... back then, we are so ill-prepared as well, because, it's just a simple video. We're going to move for crowdfunding. That's how we went it. But as we went halfway through when the snowstorm came, we realized that, like, it's too late to go down.
Yeah.
But, like, I still want to complete the challenge because we do not know if we can afford to come here next time or not.
Yeah.
So we pushed through it. But luckily for us, when we went upstairs, because of the snowstorm, the location looks amazing. And I think this is why the ending has even more punch to the actual crowdfunding video, because the location around looks amazing, and it's a blessing in disguise, I think, in a way.
Yeah, and you had an incredible crew, because they didn't turn around, because you were determined to carry on, didn't you? Weren't you? But they soldiered on with you. They kind of they went. Did they go all the way to the top with you, or not?
All the way to the top. Like every step I take, they were right next to me.
Amazing.
And again, I said like half the crew there didn't even have any job to begin with, if that makes sense. Like once we realized the snow is coming, one of the camera that didn't work. So that means they didn't even have to walk up. They didn't have to like come, all the way to the up, but they did it. And I think this is why I like to say this project is not like one person's project. This is like a group, like sons and daughters of Gurkha's project. And we are almost paying our homage to our grandfathers, our forefathers. And in return, like hopefully we can use this video and this film to have this like social integration to the community. At the meantime, restore dignity for our Gurkha veterans.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing story. Right, let's have a little music interlude. We're going to have a little bit of Despacito, and then we'll come back and talk some more. There we go, Despacito on this lovely hot sunny day. You're listening to Good Morning Marlow with Jill Hickey. It's 10:24 on Friday the 26th of June, and I have welcomed via Zoom my first guests of the day, Pradeep, Shahi and Stuart Walker, who were writer-director and one of the actors from Gurkha Behind the Bravery, one of the first ever feature films about Gurkhas, inspired by true events. So just before that music interlude, we were talking about your efforts to raise funds to make the film. Financing films is incredibly difficult, and films are incredibly expensive to make. So you talked about the Scafell Pike run that you did, which was incredible, and there is a film about that on YouTube, which I think people should watch. I think it's amazing. And you raised about £10,000 from that. Tell me, how much money does it take to make a kind of? I mean, would you class this as a low budget feature film? What's the kind of finance situation?
I think since it's a periodic, like in a World War I drama, the £25,000 budget we have, I still technically like a zero budget, being honest. the reason why many filmmakers don't do like war films is because it's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
inexpensive, not because, we lack talents. No, it's not because of that. It's just the equipment resources are so expensive.
Yeah.
And for us, when I say I want to make the film in £25,000, I knew from the beginning it was a hard challenge. And, especially it's the first time we're bringing this film to the public as well. So, the last thing I want to do is make some mockery of Gurkhas and, have all the hatred towards me because I probably tarnished the reputation of Gurkhas. So I had to go back to the drawing board at the very beginning and be realistic. £25,000, can I achieve this? Can I make a low budget film that has a cinematic appeal and overall has a very good story? So when the audience watches from the beginning till the end, the audience will be entertained, and in the meantime, they will be educated as well. So, so when I did the pre-script work, I think I was almost thinking like a producer rather than a writer. So I knew from the very beginning, £25,000 will be achievable, which then is achievable, which we are doing it right now. The only thing is when we did release our teaser trailer, we didn't realize how big the story became. So first of all, our idea was to only put in a very small few cities in the UK. That was the logic behind it in a low budget film. But after the teaser trailer came out, in Nepal and India, you can see there's lots of people and excited for this title, Gurkhas, because it's never been done before. So now we are increasing our budget threshold to £30,000 so we can do some cinematic adjustments. So if it does go in cinema, once we find a distributor, it will be at least of a high quality. So when people actually go to cinema paying money, they have the satisfaction, they watch something like a cinematic experience.
See, people don't realise, do they, when they go to the cinema, just quite how much... I mean, you hear about these multi-million-dollar films that are made and you see the credits go up with the thousands and thousands of cast and crew, and they don't realise the stuff that goes on before. I mean, I'm just thinking about things like La La Land that took 10 years to even get off the ground. And it's the stuff that happens after filming, which is where you're at right now. All the finding the distributors, getting it out there, getting publicity. That also takes time and money. So I'm pleased that you're getting traction across in Nepal. That's incredible, fantastic.
No, what is the one thing about this long credits after credits and when the film is done? Unfortunately for us, luckily for the audience, they probably have to sit 5 seconds for us because we only have 10, 15 people at the end of the day to make all this film. So our credit list will be very little because we didn't have much people behind it. But you're correct. Distribution part is very hard. Yeah. But because our trailer seems to gather very good traction so far. So it looks very positive for us so far.
Cool. So let's bring in Stuart. Sorry, Stuart's been sitting there very patiently, kind of nodding. And Stuart Walker, actor. You tell us how you got involved in the project.
Well, it's through Pradeep, really. I met him in 2017, and basically he was creating more or less kind of teaser or experimental kind of short film based on what is now become a feature film. And I was actually playing a German soldier. But that was purely on a voluntary basis, just trying to learn more about film. My training was mainly theatre, really. So it's through working on projects that I have to develop my film skills, really. And then I didn't really realise much at the time what he was trying to do, but just on the day, just speaking to him and learning about his passion for the Gurkhas and what he wanted to achieve is really inspiring. It's still inspiring. It's inspiring to everyone.
So tell us about your role in the film. What was your role?
Yeah, so he cast me as Private Bill Keatley of the Leicestershire Regiment. It's quite a hard accent. He's from Melton Mowbray, home of the pork pie. So I feel like I've been doing research on it half my life anyway. And actually, I got to speak to Matt Keatley, the great-grandson of Bill Keatley, who is rescued by Kubla Tharpa. It's just been a load of mad coincidences. Like, for instance, my great-grandfather, Charles Edward Walker, was also rescued from the Battle of Lewes, the same battle. And so there's that connection as well. It's just been amazing to be part of it, be part of this experience. And like Pradeep, it's all so true. Like, the more we learn about the Gurkhas and what they did for us, 100,000 Gurkhas served in the First World War. And they're renowned for their bravery. And the more you learn about them, the more you just love them, honestly. Like, they're great. Everyone I've met has been great, so...
Yeah, I have to say, I was putting some stuff out on social media, and Mary Flavel, who is our Good Morning Marlow coordinator, she's been awarded a gold scarf by some Gurkhas. As she was saying, they are the most amazing people. So that's really lovely. It's already kind of gaining traction in the Marlow family. But how amazing that you got to speak to the great-grandson of somebody who was saved by a Gurkha. I mean, incredible. Yeah. So tell me, who wants to tell me a little bit about? Obviously, you don't want to give the whole story away, but what is the story of Kulbir Thapa? What's the premise of the film? Why was he awarded this amazing Victoria Cross?
I think the whole idea, the way the film was conceived was we as a Gurkhas, we always term as brave, loyal. It's everything. Every time it's just like we are the bravest, the toughest. But when we grew up, I've never heard one time my father has asked me to think of war. I have seen my friend's father ask me to think of war. That's the last thing in a Gurkha family, they think of war or fighting. That's the last thing. They're very peaceful people. And the reason why Kulbir Thapa is because he earned his Victoria Cross, not by killing people, but by saving people. And for me, it was quite important message to give out to the world. Look, hey, we are brave. I appreciate that being brave. But look, behind the bravery, beneath the bravery, there is a humanity in it. And this is the reason why Kulbir's story features out, because he selflessly went to the no man's land to save a person who he never had met before. He doesn't share the language. He doesn't share the culture. He was just brought on a ship here to fight this fight. He could have easily just walked away and just, save his life and say, oof, I was lucky. But instead, he chose to save a fellow soldier just because they had the ships, they had the same emblem of the country. And for me, that deserves respect and that deserves being honored. And that's the premise of the story. The Battle of Luce, the whole film is...
Oh, I knew that was going to happen. We were right in the middle of a really good bit there, and we got cut off. We will be back. I'm going to play Uptown Funk, and I'll get the guys back, and we'll hear the rest of that story. So that was Uptown Funk there. We unfortunately got cut off right mid-flow. The joys of technology. I was told that wasn't going to happen, but it did. So we kind of ran out of our allotted time. But we're back. We are talking to Pradeep, Shahi and Stuart Walker about the feature film Gurkha Behind the Bravery. And Pradeep was just explaining the premise of the film. Sorry about that little interlude.
It's all right.
So we're the Battle of Luce, World War II? One. World War One. And Sergeant Kulbir Thapa went into no man's land and saved a man that he didn't know, as you said, couldn't speak the same language as this person, but had this kind of affinity and showed this amazing bravery and rescued. Who was it that he rescued, or did he rescue lots of soldiers?
He rescued 2 Gurkhas and Private Bill Keatley, the one which Stuart is playing.
Okay.
Yes, I think as I was saying earlier on, the film is actually about this 36 hours of survival. Although it's a Battle of Luce, it's aftermath of Battle of Luce, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And the story behind it was pretty much at that time, Lancaster Regiment and the Gurkhas, they're trying to flank from each side to the German, and that war, we actually lost because Battle of Luce, we actually lost. Because the Germans had this massive firepower for machine gun. That's the first time they actually used a proper use of machine gun, and hence, but we had twice the number. But eventually, still they won the battle. And the story happens kind of aftermath of the Battle of Luce. Okay. And at that point, Kulbir Thapa was all the way to the third line of defense for the Germans. So that's pretty much the home for the Germans' defense, right? And from there, his survival starts, and it's all trench warfare. So from there, he finds his way all the way to no man's land, where he saves this person's life and eventually brings the soldier home. So that's the premises of the film.
Okay.
But that's the premises of the film based on, our historical research. But as a film, of course, our job as a filmmaker, my job is to add tension, add inspiration, find this make the same journey exciting. Mm-hmm. So we have added these fictional characters around. because, like, of course, it's a film. We want to build this like tension and bring towards a main climax or the main conflict. And during that scenario, like Kulveer Thapa goes through his like conscious, his super subconscious, his subconscious. We explore a whole lot of his psychological warfare.
Yeah.
And it all happens in like a clothes in trench.
Yeah.
And this is where like two strangers almost become friends. And then at the end, we have a bit of twist on the ending as well, which I don't want to reveal it here, which you have to go to cinema and watch it. But the ending is something like, all I could say to the ending is like, history is written by a winner, but there's history also exists from like a loser's perspective.
Yeah.
And the German has one way of the story, and the British has one way of the story, which I have kind of combined them both to make my own version.
Brilliant. So, Stuart, you said earlier that you'd done some research and you spoke to the great grandson of the chap who was saved. Did the great grandson know about that? Had he been taught that through generations?
Yeah, he's still got the photographs.
Wow.
So Bill Keatley survived. Both his legs were amputated, so he lived the rest of his life without his legs, but with the respect of everyone around him for what he went through. And it's great to just give something back, by telling this story. We're telling people what happened and showing the bravery of the Gurkhas,
So tell me about the shoot. How long were you shooting for, and where? What were the locations you used?
So there's this place in Kent called Round Hill Farm, and it's a small farm, but they have built these ditches, trenches. Really, they've built them, and so we were able to use them and sort of add our own bits to them and so forth. I think the film, it was Pradeep's like, we've got to get it done in 30 days. So everything was pretty mad. Me, myself, I was there for I did about 9 shooting days, give or take. I was actually shooting something else in between. But obviously
30 days is no time at all to film a feature film. How long is the film?
75 minutes long.
Okay. And you did that in 30 days? Okay. There must have been 30 long days.
Oh, yes. But that's a different story. It's very long days, I would say. Very long days.
That must have been a marathon for yourself. So, Pradeep, where did you source the crew from? Was it through people that you met at uni? How did you get all these people to get on board and get behind your project and work for free, basically?
Because most of them are my friends, and that's the whole thing. The whole project is almost done by like a bunch of like new starters. And in my crew, probably like I myself from like in a technical crew, like I probably came more as like as a director, writer's perspective, and I only have experience with short films because I haven't done any feature film before. And the rest of the cast and the crew, majority of them, like again, they have the technical knowledge, but they haven't really been involved in this like film things much as they probably would prefer. And the reason why they were able to work for free is because I think they genuinely feel the passion of they believe in the cause. And I'm very grateful for that, because had they not believed in this cause, it'd be harder to like find cast and crew to film for like 30, 32 days. But then because most of them are sons and daughters of Gurkhas. So, they genuinely believe these stories has to come out. So our veterans, the generation who actually fought and died for us, we must remember them, we must honor them. And I'm very grateful my cast and crew, believes that. Hence, I managed to get all the cast and crew for free pretty much.
Amazing. Do either of you have any funny stories about anything that happened when you were filming? Was there anything that was a standout moment for you? And any bits during those 30 days that you thought, I'm never going to forget this?
Well, I'd say being in a freezing cold trench is something you don't really forget.
What time of year did you film?
November.
November. Gosh.
But can't complain. Nothing compared to what they really went through, is it? So
yeah, so you must have had that in your mind when you were kind of freezing, and you think about that with all the kind of, some of the big war films we've seen, Dunkirk, Saving Private Ryan, they've got massive budgets, and those actors will have been looked after. Don't be under any illusions that they won't have had lovely warm blankets wrapped around them the minute the word cut.
No, we made our own fire.
Yeah.
Don't have blankets.
Yeah,
do it the old-fashioned way.
I can imagine you didn't have any of those comforts. I just did a quick Google search of low-budget films that have actually made money. You'd be surprised to know that the Blair Witch Project, the budget was $60,000, and that went on to do very well, didn't it? The Full Monty, bit bigger budget, 3.5 million budget, but that was a low-budget film that went on to do fantastically well. So fingers crossed for your film. Tell us
I think go on. I'm sorry, no, go ahead. The recent one was, I think, I can remember, was, even King's Speech. It was only done for like £9 million or something. It won Oscar. It did good in like box office as well. So, low budget filmmaking, do not underestimate them, because there are lots of good raw story that comes out.
Yeah.
And in this modern generation, we are, generation in like 60s, 70s, 80s, directors back then, they were so fascinating because they bring new ideas to people. Like, Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. Nobody thought there would be AI talking to you. Now that's a reality.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I think in modern filmmaking, that's what we lack. So low budget filmmaking, I think, it has a good future because it brings all the raw stories to the public.
Raw stories,
in my opinion.
And also the best qualities of people. The reason people work on these films and projects is because they're passionate about them and they believe in them, rather than the fact that there's a big paycheck at the end of it. Okay, let's have... I thought your crew sound perfect, so I thought I'd play a little bit of Ed Sheeran. You're listening to Good Morning Marlow on Marlow FM 97.5. We've just got about 8.5 minutes till the 11 o'clock news. I was welcomed into the studio, but I haven't. I've welcomed to Zoom our two first guests, writer-director Pradeep Shahi and actor Stuart Walker, who, I've been saying it wrong, I'm so sorry, Gurkha Beneath the Bravery. Not behind, I was saying behind. It's Gurkha Beneath the Bravery, the first ever feature film about Gurkhas, inspired by true events of the late Sergeant Kulbir Thapa, who was the first Gurkha to be awarded the prestigious Victoria Cross Award. You were just telling me, just before that track, I asked you guys if there was anything memorable about your 30-day shoot. And Stuart, you said sitting in a freezing cold trench, but obviously nothing compared to what the Gurkhas went through. And then just off air, Pradeep, you were saying that the whole film has been shot at this location farm where they had these trenches. But in actual fact, quite a small, did you say it was half a football pitch size?
Yeah, it's very little, very small area.
But you had an amazing art director who it never looked like you had the same, for your different scenes, you looked like you were in different places.
So I think I probably was hundreds of times this are rough cut so far. Mm-hmm. And not once, I think, if somebody, if probably someone sits around and is trying to find a relocate an area, that's a different story. But as an audience perspective, I think we have done very good to make them realize how tiny the actual location is, and to squeeze 75 minutes out of that location.
So a 30-day shoot, a £25,000 budget, and you've made a 75-minute film, which is incredible in itself. And you were just saying as well off air that on your last day of filming, another film crew turned up to use the location. Tell us about that.
So there was, I think Troy was the name of the director, a very good guy and very helpful as well. I think they were there to film from the 1st of November, the 1st of December. I think that's where they were filming for 2 days. But they were 3 days, but they were building set for 2 days and filming for 1 day. And for them, they come in and they have put this big green screen, everything there. They had the budget was even to set up the green screen, they cost them almost like £5,000.
Yeah.
The budget, they have all the fancy equipment, all this thing. And I wish that crew, we had these resources with us as well. The life would be a completely different story. But again, saying that they
were a 4-minute film, and their budget was what, bigger than yours?
I probably would say so. Yeah. I think I don't want to quote the number, but I think up to over 20,000 easily. I think that's what the budget for them. If I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, you must be very proud to have achieved what you've all achieved for for such an amazing, number one, the subject matter, but number two, the fact that you actually achieved it in such a small space of time with such a small amount of money. I mean, I've watched the teaser trailer. People can watch it on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search for Gurkha Beneath the Bravery, there's a couple of things on there that are really, really worth watching. I think you achieved amazing things with such a short budget. Tell me what is next. So you put the release on hold because of the current pandemic crisis. What's the plan for the future? What's next?
I think, so far the person-wise, like I could literally work sometimes 18, 19 hours to, get the project ready, right? But the distribution part is a whole different game because we don't have the resources, and it doesn't matter how hard I work, I'm not going to own ever film cinema to put the film out there. So I think the film probably will be ready by August. That's the plan we are going for, because currently we're doing the ADR and the visual effects. That's what we're doing. But we are really looking for someone to help us with distribution part, because I'm a first-time film director. I've never featured my film in a screen before. So if there's any good Samaritan out there who is willing to help us to explore the world of distributors, I'm more than happy. Although it's a charity project. I'm sure there are good people out there, who actually want to help. Because at the moment, the world is busy tearing itself apart. It's okay to do these little good things every now and then. And I'm sure there's enough people who will probably be able to help us to find our way out in distribution, I would say.
So distribution is going to be the big thing, isn't it? To get it out there so that people can go and see it. So you're looking for any help that any listeners who might know someone or might be able to help themselves in the distribution part. How can people get in touch with you if there is anyone listening that might be able to help?
So obviously, we're a very small team, and the only realistic way of getting to us is social media nowadays. Okay. So if you go to Instagram, Gurkha Movie, that's our tag there. If you go to Facebook, Gurkha Beneath the Bravery, that's our tag there. Twitter, Gurkha Beneath the Bravery. So in social media, we will respond, because as I say, we've got a very small team. So we're not exactly we are not, we don't have millions of followers that we will miss messages out there either. So, please contact us through social media, and if possible, in the meantime, share our links as well and our social media pages as well, so that people can know about this amazing history of Gurkhas. Yeah. At the same time, I really want my cast and crew to be appreciated as well, because they have all worked voluntarily for this project. For me, it's my passion. I love making films, but many people involved, they're not into film either. They're just helping for sake of helping it. And I really want them to be acknowledged as well for this project.
I can see that, and I think, Stuart, you've also grabbed some of that passion as well. I can see when you were talking about all the research that you did for your character, and you obviously know, a lot more than is there's probably going to be seen on screen. But hopefully, you will portray that in your character. Your enthusiasm and passion for it is absolutely infectious, and I honestly wish you all the best with it. I think it sounds like an amazing project. I urge people to go to YouTube and watch the teaser trailer. So it's Gurkha Beneath the Bravery. Writer, director Pradeep Shahi, and we've been blessed with one of your actors, Stuart Walker, who came and joined us for our chat today. Instagram, Facebook, share it. Go on to the Marlow FM website pages. Good Morning Marlow's got a piece on there. I think I've put a link to the trailer on there as well. So let's get it shared. Let's get it out there. And honestly, I wish you absolutely all the best of luck with it. I think it's an amazing project, and I think people need to hear more about the Gurkhas. You still got family back in Nepal, presumably, Pradeep?
My brothers are here. One brother is here, but my other brother was a Gurkha as well. He retired and moved back to Nepal. And my parents, they're locked down with me at the moment, but they normally live in Nepal as well.
So your brother was a Gurkha?
Yes.
He's a retired Gurkha? Oh.
Yeah. I'm the black sheep of the family.
Well, not really. They must be super proud of you for what you're doing now and what you've achieved. So
I hope they are.
I think as I say, your passion is very infectious, and I'm so pleased and privileged that you came to share the story with us, and I wish you all the very best with it. We are going to be going to the news in about 30 seconds, and then after the news will be a couple of lovely tracks, and then we're going to be joined by our lovely Jemza from The Breakfast Show, who's going to be talking to me all about her trials and tribulations and how the current COVID pandemic has affected her career of TV and radio presenting. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll have a quick chat off air when the news is playing, but thank you so much both for joining me. We should give Nisha a little shout out as well. She's your PR lady who I've been conversing with, yes. And she's been working really hard to help you as well, hasn't she? So big shout
Very
out.
glad she's in a project.
Big shout out to all the cast and crew, and we wish you all the best. Gurkha beneath the bravery.
On FM, online and mobile. This is Marlow FM 97.5.